Hey everybody. I wanted to do a screen share on frequency table. I must share this bad boy. Okay, I got this blank sheet here, and I need to download. Let me go to the assignment here, 102. I'm going to pretend to be a student. I'm going to go to this document here, download it. Bingo. All right. And this is the most up-to-date version. I fixed the problem where some of these columns weren't visible. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to bring it over into Excel. I'm going to go ahead and just put it up here at the top. Okay. And then doesn't really matter. This step is not important, but I'm just going to do it anyways so you can see it. I'm going to take this row. I'm going to put it here. And I'm going to take this row. And I'm going to move it to the end of this row. And then I'm going to copy. I think I need to copy it to do what I'm going to do next, which is transpose paste. And to kind of describe what I did there, I clicked on the cell I wanted to paste it in. I right-clicked. So if you have a trackpad, you got to figure out how to right-click. A lot of times it's a two-finger tap. And then I clicked this paste option, which is the transpose. So it's taking it from horizontal, turning it vertical. All right, I'm not going to do it again because I don't need it twice. And I'll just say scores here. And from here, now I'm going to build my frequency table. And this, again, this is not part of what I'm asking you to do in the in-class assignment, but I saw that the frequency tables come up a lot in the Newton. So I thought I would show this, and this is how we started class. It started the actual work in math and Excel. So the first one is going to be the scores. The second one would be the frequency. And I would say this is number of students. If I wanted to be more clear than just saying frequency. The third one, I'm going to make relative frequency. And the fourth one, I'm going to make cumulative frequency. And I'll point out that cumulative frequency could either be cumulative with the numbers, the frequency, or cumulative relative frequency. And so I'm adjusting my widths of the columns there because this is annoying. I'm actually going to make my row bigger. I'm going to do some formatting here. There we go. And now I think I'm ready to roll. I'm going to do merge and center. Make this a little bigger. Okay. So here we go. The first score is 1. Then the next score is 3. The next score is 4, 5, 6, 7. And I think these go all the way up to 8, 9, 10. Okay. And then I think there is a fancy Excel formula to look at a list of numbers and then just give me back the unique numbers. But I'm just typing this column in by hand. Okay, now frequency, we could just count with our eyes. There's 1, 1, there's 1, 3, there's 2 4s. But if this is a really long list, or if I just want to have a little more security in terms of my counting, because often counting has error in it, I have a different way of doing this, which is a count approach. So I'm going to use the COUNTIF formula. And I made a mistake in class here when I did not use a fixed range reference. So I'm going to do that correctly here. So this is the range. I'm going from A4 to A33. That's a very standard notation in Excel for a lot of formulas. And then the criteria that I'm looking for is that I'm counting how many times the numbers in this are the same as this. So with this formula, I should get the number 1 because there was 1, 1 in here. If I had put the number, let's say instead of E6, I said specifically, I'm looking for how many 10s there are. I should get the number 4 because there are 4 10s here. Okay. I'm using the cell reference instead of typing the number 1 because then I can autofill. Before I autofill though, I should fix this to be A4 and A33. So the dollar signs fix it so that the A4 and the A33 stay as A4 to A33. If I don't fix it, we'll get a slightly different result. Well, let me show you what happens if I don't fix it. So I do autofill. I go to the bottom right corner, click and drag down. This may actually be correct. It just kind of depends on luck and the situation that I'm in. But notice that as I go from this cell to this cell, all of these numbers have gone up by 1. So now it's A5 to A34, and I'm looking at E7. E7 is good. I want to look at the 3s, but A5 really should be A4, and A34 has nothing in it, so I should stop at A33. So this is why I'm going to use the cell reference as a fixed cell reference here with the dollar sign. So then I'm going to go redo this. I don't think it's going to make any difference, but I feel good about what I've got. I do want to double check. In the Word assignment, it said there were 30 students, so I would expect to see 30 students. So I'm going to do a sum here of the number of students. I'm going to put it right underneath it, but I'm just giving myself a little space. I might label it. Total is 30. That's a good sign. It should be 30. And now I'm ready to do the relative frequency. So relative frequency is just a ratio of the number of students with that particular score out of the total. And the total here is going to be F16. But again, because I'm going to be doing autofill, I want to fix F16 to be there and not move. Now keep in mind that if you don't put your cells in exactly the same place, you can't copy the cell references. You want to be using your head and thinking about where is my information, or literally moving your cursor, because I don't know if I typed that or not. I have to go back and think about it, but I think I generally click and select things instead of typing out the actual cell references. I don't want all those digits, so I'm going to go ahead and lower the number of decimals. And finally, I'm going to do cumulative frequency. There's various ways you could do this. The basic definition of cumulative frequency is for any particular score, tell me all of the students who have scored at that number or below that score. And I'm moving my hand up because in the table, less than 5 is actually on top of me. So the way I would do this is I would first start with just a direct cell reference to whatever that number is. And again, I'm not typing the number 1 there. I'm using a cell reference because if for some reason I realize that my data is wrong and I go back and I change this, it updates, right? And that's what I want to happen, is I want to make sure that if I need to change something, I've got cell references in place so that everything's going to change. Now, the rest of these are going to be a similar formula. So I'm going to write this, and then I should be able to use autofill from there. I'm going to take what the cumulative frequency was on the row before, and I'm just going to add the new frequency on. And then from there, I can autofill down. And the good news is I end up with 30. And just as a bonus here, I'll show you cumulative relative frequency, which is starting with the first relative frequency, same, and then taking the relative frequency above me and adding on the new relative frequency. And what I should end up with at the end is perfect 1, because by the time I get to the bottom, I've got everything. I generally like to see relative frequencies as percents. That's typically not the way math textbooks show them. So, I don't really care. But for me, when you get to 1, it's like more sensible for a lot of students to think about this is 100%. It's 100% of the scores of the students. So yes, that makes sense that I would end up at 100%, just like I ended up here as 30. Of course, I could calculate the cumulative relative frequency by just taking the cumulative frequency and dividing it by 30, but just showing that the process is essentially the same for these two different columns of cumulative frequency. Okay, want to make sure you had that. I'll stop there and let me know if you have questions.